It was used in a Jimmy Stewart film called Shenandoah. The paddle wheel and back actually does rotate. And to give the illusion that the boat is actually floating on water, photographers use matte photography process. We'll just film footage on the riverboat, blacking out the rest of the scenery around the riverboat, and then film footage on a river and black out where the riverboat would go, and then splice the two together and refilm it. It gives the illusion that the boat is actually floating down a river. Now watch out for underwater mines that a film crew left behind this lake. You never know. I'm sure you'll agree a mine is a terrible thing to waste. Now we find ourselves trapped at the Red Sea, inspired by the Paramount film The Ten Commandments. I need your help. When I count to 3 in order to part the waters, you all have to help me say the magic words. Cowabunga, dude. When I count to 3, everybody has to say cowabunga, dude. 1, 2, 3.
Cowabunga, dude.
Now traveling down the Red Sea, it's important that you stay seated, keep your arms and legs inside the tram, and watch out for the underwater mines.
I didn't look here.
I don't want it. I don't want to look.
Here on my side of the tram was used in the TV movie version of Gilligan's Island. It reunited the castaways in the late 70s. I don't think the castaways would have been too worried if they realized they weren't too far away from civilization, because just a few feet away we see Little Europe. Now before we head up to Little Europe, we're going to travel through Spartacus Square, named after the movie Spartacus. It stars Laurence Olivier and Kirk Douglas. Spartacus is being re-released in theaters this April, so you might get a chance to see that classic. Sir Laurence Olivier stood at the top of these steps and addressed 10,000 Roman soldiers. Now those Roman soldiers were actually college students hired as extras. There's a big blooper in the film because on the days of filming, most of the college students forgot to take off their watches, so you'll see these ancient Roman soldiers walking around with their 20th century watches. Now we find ourselves traveling through Little Europe. Those of you who saw the 20th Century Fox film The Roar of the Roses with Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas might recall a scene from that movie where Kathleen Turner bought Michael Douglas a car on Christmas Eve, and she took him on a little walk through this part of the back lot. This area was also used in an upcoming Billy Crystal film called City Slickers. Coming up on my side is our Court of Miracles, named after the movie The Miracle Man. It starred Lon Chaney. This is where a lot of the old monster movies from the 20s and 30s were made. Monster movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Phantom of the Opera. With stars like Lon Chaney, he was known as the Man of a Thousand Faces. He played the Phantom of the Opera in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And there was Bela Lugosi. He played Dracula, a role that made him a monster movie star. That's something he did not want. He considered himself to be a serious actor, and after he made Dracula, no studio was willing to give him a chance to play a straight role. One of the roles he turned down was Frankenstein's monster, a role that helped to make one bit player very happy. His name was William Henry Pratt. By the time he got that part, he was about 42 years old, and he hadn't gotten anywhere in his career. He was so happy to be given a leading role that he went ahead and changed his name to fit that monster film genre, and he changed his name to Boris Karloff, went on to become one of the biggest horror film stars ever. There you've got the contrast between Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. One of them loved being a horror film star and the other one hated it. On the driver's side, it's Paul Lending and his Blue Ox Babe from Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. The airplane on the driver's side was used in the original episode of Quantum Leap that stars Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. Quantum Leap is all about time travel with a twist. Scott Bakula plays Dr. Sam Beckett, a scientist who, while in the process of developing time travel, accidentally goofs up, and now he is trapped in his own project in a time vortex, leaping in and out of other bodies throughout time. He is trapped forever, trying to make the final leap home. He always wakes up in other bodies and he has to solve their problems. You'll see that show Friday nights on NBC. As we travel up John Wayne Road, you're going to be able to see some little tricks that were used in the days of the silent film. Take a look at the doors on my side. You'll notice they're built very small. They would film the cowboy standing in front of these doors. They'd of course appear much larger, more manly. The doors on the driver's side are built much wider, taller than usual. They film the women in front of these doors. They'd of course appear a little bit more petite and helpless. Here's another illusion that took place in the 50s in the barn on my side of the tram with the old Francis the Talking Mule films. The director got Francis to talk in those days by sticking peanut butter on the roof of his mouth. That would make Francis's lips start moving. And then later on, after filming was completed, they just dub in the voice of the actor Chill Wills. We've all learned that same technique was used on Milli Vanilli. Now we find ourselves on Denver Street. This is the oldest street on the lot. These facades have been up for almost 75 years. These facades are built on a 7/8 scale. They're slightly smaller than normal. On my side, you'll see our wild wall sets. These are pieces of sets that are just transported on wheels from one part of the lot to another. Now we're going to show how we put our wild wall sets together into a completed set as we travel through Soundstage 50. Now once again, be sure to have your flash ready because we're going indoors into a soundstage. You're going to be able to see a very unique set.
Some guys get this stuff.